So today we will learn about anemia. This is the first slide of one-liners. You can pause the video and go through it. I will brush up through the important ones. Most common site of bone marrow biopsy is posterior iliac crest. Reticulocytes can be stained with Romanowski. It is a non-specific stain, and a specific stain which we can use is new methylene blue, which is a type of supravital stain. Howell-Jolly bodies are the DNA remnant. Cabot ring are the microtubule remnants. Both are seen in megaloblastic anemia and splenectomy. Howell-Jolly bodies are also seen in hemolytic anemia. Cabot rings are seen in lead poisoning. Classification into hemolytic causes, hemoglobinopathies, and nutritional causes. Nutritional causes everyone knows, they learn from their first year: iron deficiency and megaloblastic. Hemoglobinopathies, the defect is in the hemoglobin itself. So the two diseases which we need to learn is sickle cell anemia and thalassemia. And hemolytic causes, hereditary spherocytosis, G6PD deficiency, paroxysmal nocturnal, and autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Hereditary spherocytosis is autosomal dominant inherited. The defect is in the RBC membrane protein. There are 4 RBC membrane protein which we need to learn: ankyrin, band 3 or anion transport protein, spectrin, and glycophorin. Ankyrin is the most common mutation seen in hereditary spherocytosis. Band 3 mutation leads to mushroom or pincer cells. Spectrin is the most abundant RBC membrane protein, and it is inherited in autosomal recessive fashion, and it also leads to hereditary elliptocytosis. Glycophorin is not associated with the pathogenesis, and other causes of spirocytes apart from hereditary spherocytosis are autoimmune hemolytic anemia, which is the most common cause, then paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, G6PD deficiency. All these 4 causes of spirocyte are also the cause of hemolytic anemias. Reticulocyte counts are usually high, but if it is low in hereditary spherocytosis, then we need to suspect transient neoplastic crisis, which is caused due to parvovirus B19 infection. G6PD deficiency, it is inherited in X-linked recessive manner, so males will be more commonly affected. And G6PD is an enzyme which is involved in hexose monophosphate pathway to produce NADPH. NADPH is a reducing equivalent which helps in formation of reduced glutathione. These reduced glutathione act against the free radicals that are formed due to infection, which is most common trigger in G6PD deficiency. Then drugs like most commonly primaquine, sulfonamides, and favabins, so that the RBC membrane, old RBC membranes are not oxidized, and if they are oxidized, then there is a denaturation, and these denatured hemoglobins can be seen on peripheral blood smear as Heinz body or Bite cells. Heinz body when stained with crystal violet, and Bite cells when stained with Romanowski. Because denatured hemoglobin does not take the stain of Romanowski, it seems as if it has been bitten. And the 2 important variants which we need to learn are Mediterranean variant of G6PD, which causes severe hemolysis, and most common normal variant is G6PD-B. Paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, like other 2 conditions which we learned were X-linked recessive or autosomal dominant. This is acquired stem cell defect, so it is not inherited. The defect is in PIGA gene, phosphatidylinositol glycosylated A, and this forms GPI anchoring protein. This GPI anchoring protein helps in attachment of the complement regulating proteins such as CD59, CD55, and C8 binding proteins. These complement regulating proteins prevent activation of the complement pathways, and so that in condition like in acidic medium, when the complement pathways are activated and there is formation of membrane attacking complex, so these complement regulating proteins will come into picture and prevent activation, so that the RBC membranes are not damaged. But in paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, there is mutation in the GPI anchoring protein. If it is asked most important complement regulating protein mutation, then the answer is CD59 or membrane inhibiting reactive lysis. Full form of DAF is decaying accelerating factor. The triad which is we seen in paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria are pancytopenia, hemolysis, and thrombosis. Paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria and myelodysplastic syndrome and aplastic anemia are the pre-leukemic conditions. Autoimmune hemolytic anemia, there are two types: warm type, which is most common, and cold type. Warm type is IgG mediated and it causes hemolysis at 37 degrees Celsius. Cold type is both IgG and IgM mediated at 4 degrees Celsius. Causes of warm AIHA are autoimmune like SLE, chronic lymphocytic leukemia, drugs like penicillin and alpha methyl-dopa. Cold AIHA, there are two types: IgM mediated against I antigen of RBC causing heme agglutination, and then there is extravascular hemolysis which is C3 complement mediated, whereas IgG mediated, which is also known as Ronanth-Landsteiner antibody, it is against the P antigen of the RBC, and there is intravascular hemolysis which is mediated through C5 to C9 complement. Causes of cold IgM AIHA are syphilis, mycoplasma and viral infection, whereas IgG are most commonly viral infection, which is also known as paroxysmal cold hemoglobinuria. Relevant clinical features in HS, there is formation of gallstone, jaundice, splenomegaly. G6PD, features of chronic hemolysis are not seen in this condition because the episodes are intermittent. And the most common cause of death in PNH is Budd-Chiari syndrome, which is hepatic vein thrombosis. Sickle cell anemia has three clinical features, which includes vaso-occlusive crisis, aplastic crisis, and sequestration crisis. Vaso-occlusive crisis are the most common presentation, and it includes hand-foot syndrome, acute chest syndrome, autosplenectomy, and fish mouth vertebra on X-ray. Aplastic crisis due to parvovirus B19 infection, and sequestration crisis, it is a medical emergency and it occurs due to sudden dumping of most of the RBCs into the spleen, and therefore blood transfusion is very much important, which should be done within 4 hours. Most common cause of osteomyelitis in sickle cell is salmonella infection. Relevant investigation and management. For HS, screening is done with osmotic fragility confirmed with flow cytometry, management splenectomy. PNH screening, Ham's test and sucrolysis test confirmed again with flow cytometry, and management is eculizumab, which is a monoclonal antibody against C5a complement, and definitive treatment is hematopoietic stem cell transplant. For autoimmune hemolytic anemia, Coombs test, which is positive. Sickle cell anemia screening is sodium metabisulfite. Thalassemia screening is Nesterov test, and in both the condition of hemoglobinopathies, confirmatory test is HPLC more than hemoglobin electrophoresis. Coombs test, it can be positive or negative. It is negative in conditions like TTP, HUS, DIC. These are all microangiopathic hemolytic anemia in which antibodies are not acting against it to cause hemolysis. Rather, the pathology is something different. And PNH, where the pathology as we discussed is due to the complement mediated intravascular hemolysis. Coombs test positive, it is seen in AIHA, which is obviously antibody mediated, fetal blood sample in hemolytic disease of newborn, which is direct Coombs test, and maternal sample in hemolytic disease, which is indirect Coombs test. Then comes osmotic fragility test. Osmotic fragility is basically when we place the RBC in 0.9% of a normal saline solution, it does not burst, but as we keep on reducing the percentage, obviously the hypotonicity leads to bursting of the RBC. In hereditary spherocytosis, because there is RBC membrane damaged, the bursting occurs at early percentage. So in hereditary spherocytosis and burns, the osmotic fragility is increased, whereas osmotic fragility is decreased in thalassemia, iron deficiency, and sickle cell anemia. Yes. Hemolysis type, there can be extravascular hemolysis or intravascular hemolysis. In hereditary spherocytosis, because RBC membranes are damaged, so when they enter the spleen, macrophages are stimulated that there is defect in this RBC, so it should be lysed. So that's why there is extravascular hemolysis. In G6PD deficiency, there is both extravascular and intravascular. Why intravascular? Because at one point the damage to the RBC membrane is so much that they become fragile and they burst within the blood vessel itself. Paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, intravascular, because the complement mediated damage happens inside the blood vessel. And autoimmune hemolytic anemia, it is extravascular hemolysis more than intravascular hemolysis. Then there is acanthocyte or spur cell, which is seen in liver disease, in which the spikes are not uniform, whereas acanthocyte or Burr cells are seen in uremia, and in this the projections or the spikes seen on the RBC are uniform. Intravascular hemolysis are also seen in microangiopathic hemolytic anemia conditions like HUS, TTP, DIC, and antibody-mediated conditions like hemolytic disease of newborn, transfusion mismatch, and autoimmune hemolytic anemia, and in infections like malaria and babesiosis. Nutritional causes, it is megaloblastic anemia. You can pause the video and go through the slide. No need any further explanation. I can just explain. There are three autoantibodies seen in pernicious anemia. Type 1, which prevents binding of vitamin B12 to intrinsic factor. Type 2, it blocks binding of vitamin B12 intrinsic factor complex to the tubulin receptor. And type 3, which is acting against alpha beta subunit of the gastric proton pump. Then iron deficiency anemia. You can again pause the video and go through the important points. Then come hemoglobinopathies. They are divided into two types: sickle cell, which is a qualitative, and thalassemia, which is quantitative. The main pathology in sickle cell anemia is in the beta chain of the hemoglobin at the 6th position, where the glutamine is replaced by valine. G for glutamine, G for go, V for valine, W for welcome. And the mutation is missense point mutation. In thalassemia, the alpha chain on chromosome 16 is either deleted or the beta chain on chromosome 11 is mutated. There is nonsense point mutation leading to beta 0 mutation, or splicing mutation of introns, which is beta plus, which is the milder form of beta thalassemia. Sickle cell anemia, it is autosomally recessive condition, and in sickle cell, the obviously solubility of the hemoglobin is altered. The sticky ends are formed, and it is aggravated in conditions on dehydration, in acidic medium, again with hemoglobin C, and in hypoxic conditions. Alpha thalassemia, there are 4 genes. If one gene is deleted, it is called carrier. If 2 genes are deleted, then it is called trait. If 3 genes are deleted, it is called hemoglobin H. And in if 3 genes are deleted, there is a tetramer formation of beta chain, and this tetramer is seen as golf ball inclusion on supravital stain. And 4 genes are deleted, then it is called hemoglobin Barts, or also known as hydrops fetalis, and there is formation of gamma 4 tetramers. Then comes beta thalassemia, 3 major types: thalassemia major, thalassemia intermediate, and thalassemia minor. Thalassemia major, also known as Cooley's anemia or transfusion dependent anemia. Hemoglobin will of course be on a lower side as compared to intermediate and minor, and it requires repeated blood transfusion. Hemoglobin F, if diagnosed, it is at least 30 to 90% of the total hemoglobin, and most common cause of death is congestive heart failure, that is dilated cardiomyopathy, in 10 to 20 years of age due to free radical damage. This free radical damage occurs because of the iron overload on repeated blood transfusion. Thal minor, diagnosis is through hemoglobin A2, which is 4 to 8% of the total hemoglobin. The last slide: aplastic anemia syndromes, Fanconi anemia, Diamond-Blackfan anemia, Schwarzman-Diamond syndrome. You can pause the slide and go through the important points which are required for the diagnosis of each. Thank you so much.